Hi everyone, this lesson's about understanding process and how to actually visualize process performance. So you go through looking at a typical operational dashboard. That can be fairly daunting when you first look at it, but I intend to reduce that down to something that's a little more digestible, and understanding that an operational dashboard is simply a representation of the process that the operation performs, and each of those charts within that dashboard again just represent elements of that process. So we can break it down quite nicely into something that's a little more digestible. For the purpose of this exercise, I've looked at a process map of getting to school on time. So I've created this, and then I've just simulated some data points. So just to get a volume of data, I've said, look, 780. We're saying the target time to get to school on time is 80 minutes. And then we're just representing those data points as pass or fail. And the idea here is to show people that if you're using a simple pie chart, you get very limited information, and you're much better off to actually take a histogram of that data, because then you can actually see the data points. So for instance, at 90 minutes, if we could simply tweak our process so that we could tighten up that 90 minutes, we increase our pass rate materially. So just demonstrating there that the right chart is critical to visualizations. So again, on pie charts, we can see there that if we just represent as a binary pass-fail, it looks pretty ordinary. But when you actually split that data out, you look at the time series there, you can see that we did actually implement a change to our process, and we've got a material improvement, but that's not visible on the pie chart. So again, it's just emphasising why we pick certain charts to do certain jobs. So now, construction of a histogram. We've got some random data points there, and we just take those data points there and we cluster them up. So we'll count how many fell into each bucket there. So we've got a bucket of 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and we count how many data points fell into each bucket. That plots our histogram. Now we're going to summarise our histogram and reduce that down to something that again we can manage. So we get our lowest data point, our highest data point, our median data point, we get our 25th percentile, and we get our 75th percentile. And then those 5 data points, we cluster them together into a little object that looks like a box. And that's a summary of our histogram. So we take that summary that we've just created there, and now what we're going to do is rotate that through 90 degrees. So now we've got the same data but vertically represented. Same data in nice summary form, but because it's now vertical, that allows us to take a multitude of histograms and put those data points together, and now we can visually contrast them. We can see how each one's performing relative to others. So if we take those, because they're a time series, we can grab those 4 there, we can add in the extra months, and then we can consolidate all those into a box plot. And that box plot's actually quite helpful for us to visualize how the process is going. So we can look at how the process is going in terms of variation. So I can see there that the process variation is narrowing over time, which is a good thing. If I do the reverse, I can see here that my process is widening over time, which is something I might want to correct. I can also look at how my median time on my process is performing. And I can see here that this one is actually improving, whereas on this one here, it's actually deteriorating. So again, from that box plot chart, once I understand what I'm looking at, it actually becomes quite informative. And then I've got one over here where I can say this is demonstrating two at once. So you can see here that the variation is narrowing, and the median time is not deteriorating, but improving over time as well. So it's quite quite useful, quite informative. Uh, then I jump onto assessment, and as I emphasised down the bottom of every slide, it's not about creating it. That would involve a massive argument with Excel. It's really just a matter of just being familiar so that when they see these type of charts pop up, they're not daunting, they don't shy away from them, they can actually understand them. So this initially, again, looks very busy, but it's not that bad. So, you know, my question to them would be, is the revenue increasing or decreasing? You should be able to derive that. Is the process getting more or less consistent over time? Again, you can derive that. And then what recommendations would they make? So for me, I'm looking at this and thinking, well, the process is actually getting more variable over time. So I'd probably want to tighten that up, because the tighter my process, the more predictable my revenue. And then we jump on to another one where a slight variation on this one, because now we're not looking at a time series, we're looking at contrasting different people's performance. And I can see there that there's a couple of people there that are generating a lot of output. So, and there's also some people there that have got some very, very low variation on their process performance. So they're the high performers there, and they're the ones that are most consistent. So again, what would I do? I like the consistency, but you know, I'd want to change their process slightly to improve their performance. And that's the summary of my lesson plan. Thank you.